Hey, there we go. And there is our.
Here I am. Is this good? Let's see. Let's do. Is that okay?
Yep.
We good?
Yep. All good here. Get you spotlighted, and we're ready to go. Okay, we're joined by our race-winning crew chief, Chris Gabehart. Chris, go ahead and walk us through the race from your perspective, please, and thank you.
Well, it was obviously different for a lot of reasons. You know, Wednesday night, and we had rain, and ended up being a rain-shortened race, and it's a shorter race than a cup race would normally be here at Darlington. So strategy was a little bit different than normal. There was a lot of things that were different, and because it was a night race, track had a lot of grips, so Darlington didn't fall off quite like it normally does, and tires didn't mean quite as much. So there was a lot of things different about it, but one thing that was consistent, we had a really fast car, drove really good, and Denny's obviously really good here. So fortunately, we were able to get him to the front, and you know, we were really fast once we got there, and had some rain break our way at the end.
Good deal. We're going to open the floor up for questions. If you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand on the participants button, and we'll get to as many questions as possible. We're going to start with Jim Utter. Go ahead with your question, Jim.
Could you talk just a little bit about how your tire strategy developed at the end of the race, where you and the decision not to pit?
Yeah, so we actually got ourselves in a little bit of a tire crunch there, and when we had that caution that trapped a bunch of cars a lap down, Denny felt like he wanted to use our last set of tires there to get just a couple lap advantage over the 9 and restart fourth. There was a lot of strategy going on there, and it put us because that was our last set of stickers, but we were taking off what had only had a lap and a half on them, so those were going to be the set that we'd put on if we really needed them. They were going to be lap and a half scuffs, and you know, it takes a little bit of time once you glue them up to get the lug nuts where they're confident that you can do another pit stop. You know, you can't just put those tires right back on in 12 seconds. It takes a little time. So I wasn't 100% certain that we could have a flawless pit stop there. And if we had a lug nut knockoff, it would kill our day. And then on top of that, you know, we had seen some cars stay out. The 19 stayed out with 10 laps old tires and was actually able to lead a good portion of the race. So after doing it, so clearly clean air was really important. And I knew how good our car was, so I felt like we could hold them off for a few laps if we needed to. And then the last bit of it was we knew rain was in the area and it was going to rain any minute. So there were a lot of things that went into it, but the bottom line was I felt like we needed the lead right there, so I just stayed out.
So were you not even considering or worried about the last 20 laps because you guys seemed to be fairly certain that the rain was coming?
I was fairly certain that it was going to be a rain-shortened race. The weather pattern was difficult to determine exactly when it was going to rain, but we knew that it was really close. And at that point, you know, it could have came even under that caution flag. We may have not even went back green. It was that close. So, you know, there was a lot that went into it, and it was not an easy call. But at the end of it all, we just wanted to make sure we had the lead and some clean air, and it worked out.
Thank you.
Our next question will come from Jordan Bianchi. Go ahead, Jordan. Okay, we will move on to our next question. The next question will come from Brett Winningham. Go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, kind of a follow-up to that last question. Just as a crew chief, how nerve-wracking is it to not only have to figure out how to keep track of like the other cars when they're pitting, when they're not, but also have to monitor the rain and when it might come in situations like tonight?
This was a unique situation for sure. It had a lot of variables playing into it really quickly. You know, again, trapping a bunch of cars a lap down and kind of having the fortune of knowing where you're going to restart if you pit. And, you know, there was just a lot going on for sure. It's a very unique situation. I can't say I found myself in that style of situation ever before, but that's the amazing thing about cup racing at this level is you just find so many different ways to get challenged because your competition is so good that you just find yourself in a lot of unique situations. And luckily we came out on the right side of it today.
And typically we only go to tracks once or twice a year. This situation, we're going to Darlington, I think 3 times. How important have these 2 events been for you all with that element coming up later in the year?
Well, that's a great question because we had a really good car Sunday. We had a third place car, but it had what I felt like was a few fatal flaws from a handling perspective. And being that we get to come back just a few short days later in conditions that will be more like the Southern 500 later this year, I myself and the engineers took the opportunity and really swung the bat hard. We didn't come back with a setup anything like what we raced Sunday, even though we were good Sunday. And it was all about trying to learn for the fall and just believing in your guys and your tools. And I'm just so proud of my engineers and our process at Joe Gibbs Racing and how we worked through it. And I had all the confidence in the world to really swing the bat, and it worked out. We had a really good car tonight.
Our next question will come from Mike Massey. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Chris. First off, it's impressive that you won a race when you're clearly at Daytona and the race was at Darlington.
Yeah, I noticed the background. It's quite interesting.
But last year, I remember you guys winning at Phoenix, how emotional that was. Denny diving into your arms and stuff, just all the high emotions. How much harder has it been? Both races you guys have won have been kind of weird circumstances where you couldn't really celebrate. How hard has it been to celebrate both wins, first because of the Newman deal and then second because of just the social distancing aspect?
Yeah, and the rain, right? It wasn't – we can go to victory lane. So, yeah, a lot of winning rain shortened races are definitely weird because you don't get the elation of crossing the start-finish line first, and it's not an instantaneous thing. It kind of takes some time to develop. But, yeah, they have been different for sure. But for me personally, I can't speak for everybody on the team, but for me personally, it's about the accomplishment of winning the race. I go to victory lane and I love it. Don't get me wrong, but it's not why I do it. So although it's odd and unique, the satisfaction for me is just as large. I'm just really proud of my team for coming out on top today against such a tough field like it is each and every week in the Cup Series. And that's really what I look forward to most when we win.
Thank you.
Our next question will come from Justin Schuler, kicking the tires. Go ahead, Justin.
Hey, Chris, congratulations on the win. Kind of a two-part question. What are the challenges for a crew chief when it comes to the same track and then races being so close to each other, daytime versus nighttime, like this, especially at an already tough track like Darlington? And then the second part, what are some things that you've learned that you could probably carry over into kind of the similar circumstance with Charlotte next week?
Yeah, that's another good question. You guys are watching some unprecedented stuff. I can't ever recall a time where 3 or 4 or 5 Cup races have been so close to each other. So all of these race teams, ours included, have built a system that kind of works off of a 7-day-a-week cycle. Yeah, we have to be at the racetrack on Saturdays or Fridays to practice and qualify, but you have a lot more time. And these race teams are such well-oiled machines, they optimize that process. And now with everything that's went on in our world, that process has been blown up overnight. There wasn't any scheduling a year out for us to prepare for it. It kind of happened without us knowing it, and it really has changed the game. I can tell you that Monday and Tuesday they went by in a blink of an eye. I feel like over the last 2 months, every day has felt like a year to me. Time has just slowed down. I can assure you the last 2 days felt like minutes. So it definitely changes the way you think about it and the way you have to prepare for these events. And it really tests the efficiency of your race team. And I'm just so proud to be able to win one of them because I think we got a really good race team where that's concerned.
Our next question will come from Noah Lewis. Go ahead, Noah.
Yeah, Chris, you talked a little bit about the major changes you guys made to the setup coming into this race compared to Sunday. How is your role? Can you just touch on how much your role has changed in the regard of communication? Have you been in the shop at all, hands-on it or anything like that? Or is it all via video conference and notes sent over for the guys at the shop to work on?
I've been in the shop for the last couple weeks now. So this week and the prior, previous to that, we've tried to be really cognizant of social distancing and only being at the shop if necessary. And with today's tools, from a technology perspective, myself and my engineers, a lot of my guys didn't need to be there. but the last couple weeks, we have been there on and off. It varies on who's there and when. So my entire race team's not there every day. It's still very strange. My engineers have effectively still been working from home. So we're doing a lot of meetings just like this. It's challenging. Golly, this sport is so tough as it is. And then to have something like this thrown at you out of the blue, it's really neat because all of the top competitors at this sport, what they're good at is adapting to whatever comes their way, whether it's minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, year by year. And we are the very best in the sport as a Cup series at adapting. And this has been one of the bigger adaptations that I can recall, but here we are in victory lane, so not too bad. Or form of victory lane anyway.
Our next question will come from Sterling Siemens, KCOU. Go ahead, Sterling.
Yeah, Chris, to kind of go off of that last question, how convenient is it the fact that the first few races back for NASCAR have been in the Carolinas, starting with Darlington and going to Charlotte? How convenient is that considering how a lot of the race teams in the Cup Series are based in North Carolina?
That's a good question. I think it's really important in a lot of ways because, again, the 7-day cycle is now being shrunk down to 3 days or so. And, a lot of that time can get eaten up in just driving to the airport and getting on the plane and waiting to take off and flying there and driving to your hotel and getting checked. There's just a lot of things that eat up time that, you really wouldn't necessarily think about. But, in a scenario like this where literally every hour counts, it really does make it easier for us to kind of kick back into not only into gear, but into overdrive almost. So it's definitely made a big difference.
Good deal. Well, Chris, congratulations on the win. Safe travels back to Charlotte and good luck in the Coca-Cola 600 this weekend.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
Take care. And thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Again, check NASCARmedia.com for audio, video, transcripts of the proceedings this evening. And we look forward to talking to you again tomorrow morning at 11:40 with Denny.
Thanks, Matt.
We'll see you then. Okay? Take care. Have a great night.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks,
Everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, Matt. Good to see everyone.
Good to see everybody.
Thanks, Matt. Bye, staff.